President Trump had a lot of lines in his second State of the Union that spoke to the idea of unity.
Together we can break decades of political stalemate. We can bridge old divisions, heal old wounds.
But his rhetoric on immigration wasn't meant to reach across the aisle. It was designed to drive home the message he campaigned on and has stuck to in his first 2 years in office: build the wall.
In the past, most of the people in this room voted for a wall, but the proper wall never got built. I will get it built.
The fact that Trump dug in made him the perfect foil for the man giving the Spanish language response.
When the Democrats tapped California Attorney General Xavier Becerra for the Spanish language rebuttal to the State of the Union, he chose to give the speech at his old high school in Sacramento.
There he is. Hello, sir.
Back again.
Yes, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for choosing McClatchy and coming back home.
Becerra was an obvious choice. He's the son of Mexican immigrants. He represented a heavily Latino district for 24 years in Congress.
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
And as California's Attorney General, he's already sued the Trump administration 45 times over healthcare, the environment, and most importantly, immigration.
20 seconds.
Trump made Becerra's job easy by saying exactly what everyone expected him to say on immigration.
Buenas noches.
All Becerra needed to say to the millions of Latino voters watching live on Telemundo and Univision was, "We are not Donald Trump."
Esta noche era para convencernos que de ahora en adelante paraba el engaño y la disfunción y que empezaba la cooperación. Lo que escuchamos fue el cansado refrán de construir muros.
He spoke for almost 13 minutes, long enough to rail against the president, but not long enough to get into specifics about what the Democrats actually want to do about the border. Which was lucky for him, because when it comes to immigration, the party has some serious internal divisions to work through. The Democratic Party is obviously trying very hard to draw a stark contrast with Trump on immigration.
It's not tough.
Sure, but the Democrats share a lot of the responsibility for militarizing the border, for dramatically expanding the immigration enforcement system to the point where we see it today. Do you think that the Democrats are doing enough to reckon with that fact?
David, that's a great question because it's similar to the question about criminal justice reform, 1993-94, when the crime bill came up. And I had just gotten in Congress in that time. Bill Clinton really pushed it. And a lot of folks now who voted for it have said, we regret that we did that because it moved towards quickly incarcerating young people, mostly young men of color. Things change. Places and people evolve. Are there things that people in office who are Democrat or Republican look back at and say, I wish I'd done it differently? No doubt.
To this day, though, or at least until very recently, Democratic leadership is still in favor of additional funding for border security measures, additional DHS funding, that kind of thing. So that doesn't necessarily indicate regret, at least on the part of the leadership.
And I am as well, depending on where it goes. I think we have an obligation as a sovereign nation to provide security at our borders, at our ports of entry.
So what do you make then of the sort of ascendant left wing of the Democratic Party that's saying no additional funding for DHS, no additional funding for immigration enforcement whatsoever?
There's no area of national law enforcement that's received more money than Customs and Border Patrol and Immigration Customs Enforcement, the immigration law enforcement agencies. Nobody gets the kind of money they get. There is a point where it is going overboard. But that doesn't mean, for example, that we wouldn't want to invest in tunnel detection devices or drone technology or the things that let us be smarter and more humane in the way that we do things.
So when people say abolish ICE, how do you feel about it?
Heck no. No.
There aren't many state attorneys general who have offices in Washington or who have a national political profile. Is there a risk that devoting so many resources to the fight against Trump comes at the expense of other fights that should be taking place here in California?
David, I'll respond to that by saying, can you think of a fight here in California that we haven't taken on, that we should? It's not suing Donald Trump or taking Donald Trump on for the sake of taking on Donald Trump. It's because Donald Trump is trying to do something to Californians that would be detrimental to our prosperity, to our well-being, and it's my obligation to defend the people, the values, and the resources of the state.
Los Estados Unidos seguirá siendo el dueño del sueño americano. Buenas noches y que Dios los bendiga. Breathe, breathe.